In the Reins, a novel. Written by Kade. Narrated by Amanda Lamb. Chapter 4. 2.5 months after leaving Michael and the big city, I found myself walking into a stranger's barn and paying for a horse, sight unseen. Most horse people would call me crazy. Invitations Sealed with a Kiss was her registered name, but they called her Faith. She was a bright, spirited young paint mare, and I fell in love with her instantly. She was incredibly pretty, with bay and brown patches over white puzzled across her body. Her coloring was referred to as Tobiano, so they told me. She had an abstract heart-shaped spot on her neck. These days, I was all about connection. I had it with Faith the moment she put her muzzle on my shoulder and blew warm breath in my ear. I knew I would never be in a relationship with human or animal that lacked connection again. I wasted 3 years of my life living a connectionless lie with Michael. With 30 lingering around the corner and a broken engagement on my resume, I realized, maybe for the first time, how clear it was that I only had this one wild, precious life. I intended to live it fully from here on out. Bring on the fear, bring on fully living. Devin Brooke, this is your time, your chance to change your ways. I want it all. All at once, I was a horse owner. I knew Faith was young and needed a lot of conditioning before I would have myself a finished show horse. But it was a journey I looked forward to, relished in. I knew that with hard work came great reward, and I knew that I had found the horse that would take me where I wanted to go. It had always been my dream for as long as I could remember to own a horse that had the talent to compete at a world-level horse competition. Fate whispered to me that Faith was just that horse. I trusted my instincts. They hadn't abandoned me during those years I had been away from the equine scene. I still knew a good one when I saw one. It came from a place innate in me. Or call it fate. As luck would have it, Faith's previous owners also agreed that we were a perfect fit. They even offered to continue to stable her until I was able to find a suitable facility. They kept the price tag on her board low, happy that she was going to a good home. Not to mention the fact that I was reducing the size of their costly herd. Relieved that I had Faith safely stored for another month, I settled in at doing what a writer does best. Again, I researched. I asked everyone from tack shop clerks to feed store managers if they knew of any private barns in my area. I was in search of a peaceful environment, one without the chaos that comes with multiple horse owners boarding their horses under one roof. I needed a quiet place, off the beaten trail, almost a sanctuary, where I would have a chance to process, to think, to let the grunge of the city and Michael fall away from me. I needed to let the frenzy of a fast-forward life slip away. I wanted the slick the city left on my skin, my life, my soul, to melt away under the silence of a country horse farm. I wanted to experience lack of expectation and judgment as I bonded with my new mare, to see what I really remembered about being a horse owner, if anything at all, to be free of the scrutiny of other riders and the herds of gossipers that claimed to be riders at upscale boarding facilities. In my search for the isolated space I craved, only one was brought to my attention, and I pulled into the driveway nervous. What if I were rejected by the owner for the thing I wanted most? What if I were turned away for the very same reason I sought this barn out? All I wanted was to be alone with my thoughts and my animal. Maybe they wanted that too, and that would make me the intruder. I knew I wanted to care for Faith myself. I wasn't expecting someone to do those chores for me. I needed to get dirty. Not city slick dirty, but earth dirty, hard work dirty. I wanted to know Faith, inside and out. I wanted to know how much water she drank during the day, how much feed it would require to put weight lost from training back on her, the nutritional content of the hay that she received. I wanted to clean her stall and have the satisfaction of sweat running down my back, leaving salty, damp trails along my spine. I didn't want anyone to know her needs better than I did. I wanted to reconnect with my roots. I wanted to be a bona fide cowgirl this time around. I walked sheepishly from my car toward the establishment, passing up the temptation to drag my feet through the dirt. Once I crossed the threshold of the barn doors and moved into the cool shadows, I had to adjust my eyes. The transition from bright sunlight threw me off. In adjusted focus and upon first impression, the barn was quiet, almost lonely. And I knew it was exactly what I needed. I looked from left to right. The grand 20-stall barn stood almost empty. The lush pastures uninhabited, not a person in sight. As I pushed down the cement aisle, I heard a rustling in one of the box stalls and noticed a lone worker tending to the bedding. I asked him if the owner was available. He didn't lift his head to look at me as he motioned his pitchfork. "Over there," he said, under his breath. I looked in the direction of his tines and saw in the distance, at the top of a lush hill of green grass, a woman perched at a picnic table under the shade of a large tree, wearing a big, floppy hat. I said nothing more to the stable hand as I turned and glanced again around the stable. The space gave me the lingering sense that something good had happened here, but was since long gone. As staff emerged from the shadows, their soft half-smiles were those of the ones who were left to tend the ghostly premises. Their eyes seemed all-knowing, but their voices I knew would not be telling. I felt like they might be protecting something, afraid of something, longing for something. I didn't need to know their story. If I could bring Faith here, I would respect them and their silences, as somehow I knew they would do the same for me. Whatever happened here, I would leave them to their secrets and their silences, to mind myself and occupy only my small space. I even felt compelled to share in the sadness of the place. I would linger between the rustle from the stalls and the billow of the breeze. I would become part of the silence. I would enjoy the quiet peace here that only nature dares breach. I wanted to disappear, to be nobody. Even though I once had a life where I thought I was somebody. I felt strongly that this feeling somehow linked me to the people still staying on here. I took a deep, steadying breath in the shadows of the barn, turned to the sunlight, and walked toward the woman. As I approached, she did not stir. She seemed locked in place, entranced by something. Once I reached the crest of the hill, I saw that she was looking down on an arena where, amidst a whirl of dust clouds, a man was working with what looked like a young colt. "Excuse me," I said, breaking her trance. She turned to me, and under the brim of her considerable hat, she wore a smile. This woman was much older than I would have expected for someone who owned a horse farm. Much too old to ride without breaking a fragile bone. She was delicate. Her skin was paper thin, peach and luminescent, so transparent that I could see the blue blood working through the veins in her hands. Her clothing was exquisite, and each skinny finger bore a glimmering bauble. She was the perfect Southern belle. Her gossamer white sheath of a dress clung to her slight, frail body, spilling over the edge of the picnic table, fluttering on the light, humid breeze. I couldn't help but think that I might break her if I spoke too loudly. When she finally addressed me, it was in a sweet, low, musical voice. "I just love it when he starts working with the young ones." She met my eyes. Hers were cloudy blue sapphires, cloaked by the soft wrinkles that accompanied well-cared-for elder skin. I was taken aback by her beauty. Age had been good to her. Straining to see, I squinted down into the arena. I was shocked that she could see what the man was doing down there until I noticed the pocket-sized pair of binoculars hidden under the palm of her right hand. I offered my hand to her and introduced myself. "I'm Devin Brooke, ma'am." She reached out to me with her dainty, crooked fingers and gave me a squeeze. "I'm Sophia Matilda Washington Clark. Please just call me Sophia. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, dear? Maybe you can start with why you're here," she said inquisitively. "Here it is. My window of opportunity. It's now or never, Devin." I felt ready. The clerk at the local tax store warned me that I'd only have one chance to convince her to take on a boarder. I practiced what I would say at this moment over and over. It began with cricket, skipped over Michael, covered the moment of enlightenment in front of the horse pasture, and ended with finding faith. This is it. I crossed my fingers behind my back and silently prayed I deliver a good pitch. Chapter 5. "So that's how I came to learn about Greenbrier, Sophia," I said nervously, wiping my brow. Sophia pursed her time-lined lips, cocked her head in thought. She considered me for quite some time. "Please say yes. Please say yes." Finally, she spoke. "You can keep your horse here," she said, nodding. "You seem like a very nice girl. I'm intrigued by your story." "Devin, you can stop holding your breath now." She looked me up and down, narrowing her eyes as she surveyed me. She spoke sweetly again, but had a slight sound of hurt in her voice as she continued. "Just mind your P's and Q's. Don't mean we aren't a friendly bunch, but we are a pretty private group around here. I take it that's what you're looking for, though." "Oh, yes, ma'am," I said, trying not to sound desperate. I wanted this place. I wanted to suck in all of its secrecy and make it my own. I didn't want to have to explain my life, my breakup, my breakdown, my missed years of horse knowledge. I wanted to be part of the private bunch, yet separate, alone. "And don't bother with him either." She jetted her chin toward the arena. I was shocked. I didn't want to bother with any hymns. "You don't have to worry about that, ma'am. I will be sure to keep to myself out here." "Well, I believe you, dear. But just so you know," she paused to emphasize her point, "he is a cowboy through and through. He breaks his horses, and then he breaks hearts, 6 ways sideways. Done it to everyone out here. He'll do it to someone new, too." Sophia sighed. It was a breathy, heavy sigh. I wanted to bottle it and sell it. It sounded so pretty. "I have a soft spot for him, so I let him keep on here, but he takes a little piece of my heart every time he goes. I can't help adoring him, but I've learned after all these years not to count on the cowboy types." I didn't know what kind of confession she was sharing with me. I wanted to ask her what she meant by "when he goes," but I remembered her instructions to mind my P's and Q's. I wasn't about to throw away the perfect place for faith in me over a question about some guy that I didn't care to know standing a quarter-mile away in an arena. I looked at the ground and swiped my boot across the blades of grass, watching each one snap back into place, tall, reaching for the sun. "So I'll have her shipped in tomorrow, then?" She gave me a single nod and turned back to the arena. She must have heard him approaching. I was either too excited about Faith's new surroundings or too confused about Sophia's lecture to notice that he had made his way up the hill and heard the tail end of our conversation. He stood a few feet from me, sweaty bay horse in tow, staring at Sophia. "McKinnon." She paused to acknowledge him and press her thin pink lips together. "I will discuss it with you this evening." Sophia motioned toward me with both beautiful hands, the ones I couldn't stop looking at, and said, "This is Devin." He turned his electric blue, weathered eyes on me and shot an untrusting glare. He shook his head, dark hair matted to his neck under a straw cowboy hat, pushed a heavy breath through his fine-lipped mouth, then clucked to the horse, cueing him forward, and disappeared over the backside of the hill toward the barn. I couldn't help but watch him walk away, thin white shirt stuck to his sweaty back and molded to his wiry muscular frame. He was statuesque in the sunlight, a willing horse at his beck and call, anger evident in every step he took. I wondered after him for a moment, and then shook my head free. Not my problem. About the author. Carly Kade is an Arizona-based author and enjoys competitively showing her registered paint horse. In her free time, Carly works on her next novel, reads voraciously, spends time with her husband and 2 adopted dogs, and loves exploring the great outdoors. Feeling social? Join the herd and connect with Carly Kade Creative on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. Can't wait to find out what happens next for McKinnon and Devin? Visit Carly's blog at carlykadecreative.com for sequel sneak peeks, updates, and release info. Reviews are golden. If you enjoyed this book, please leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads. Your readership and support is greatly appreciated. The end.